All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today's Ed Forum is all about Counselor Suite Idaho, which you've probably been hearing about for a few months now. Some of you learned about it kind of more in depth at the Next Steps Idaho Roadshow if you attended back in November. But we're excited today to have our whole team here to walk you through kind of what the Counselor Suite Idaho is going to look like and how you're going to gain access. So before we get started into Apply Idaho, I'll just introduce myself, or excuse me, not Apply Idaho, Counselor Suite Idaho. We were just talking about Apply Idaho. My name is Jenny Kimball. I'm the College and Career Advising Program Manager here at the Office of State Board of Education. And I'm also joined by Sarah and Joan today. I will let them introduce themselves as well.
I'm Joan Cleary. I'm the Outreach Coordinator for Next Steps Idaho, which means that I work pretty closely with the website and will often handle some of the traffic when you guys email info@nextsteps.idaho.gov.
And hi, I'm Sarah Scudder. I'm the College and Career Access Officer here at the board. And so part of our team's role is Next Steps Idaho, Direct Admissions, Apply Idaho, as well as the Counselor Suite Idaho that you guys are going to get a preview of today.
Thanks, team. So as you have probably heard, we are going to say goodbye to FAFSA Many of you have been using FAFSA for a few years now, or maybe this is your first year with FAFSA but we're going to retire it. It's going to be retiring in a couple of weeks once we get back into the new year. FAFSA has been a great tool to give you information about your student level FAFSA data, Apply Idaho data, and scholarship data. But we just wanted to increase the functionality of the tool, as well as provide a little bit more security of that data since it is student level data. So we are going to say goodbye to FAFSA. You will still be able to access FAFSA until January 15th. So I know that all of you are going to be, just dying to log in over your winter break to see who's been working on their FAFSA, or when you come back from break, you can still log in. However, we will be transitioning to the new Counselor Suite after January 15th. So this is what the current FAFSA looks like. Like I said, those of you who've been using it, you're familiar with how it looks. It does show you when you first log in kind of statewide, our completion rate, which I believe when I just checked the other day, statewide, about 22% of our seniors have completed a FAFSA so far. And just as a reminder, we had just over 40% of students complete a FAFSA last year. So we're about halfway there. Of course, we always want to increase that FAFSA completion rate. I know you're all working really hard to get as many students as possible to do so. So you can see state level data, and then once you log in, you can actually see your student level data at your particular campus. So again, you will have access to FAFSA through January 15th, and then you will find the same information in Counselor Suite Idaho. Joan is going to demo Counselor Suite Idaho in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we just want to make sure that we really clarify kind of who should be using Counselor Suite Idaho. Counselor Suite Idaho is going to give you the same information that FAFSA provides, which again is that student level data on FAFSA completion, college applications, and scholarship applications. And so really, this tool is meant for students or for practitioners, counselors, advisors, TRIO representatives, could possibly even be AVID teachers, anyone who's assisting students with Apply Idaho, FAFSA, or Scholarship Idaho could have access to Counselor Suite. So it typically is someone who's going to be working with seniors, definitely at that high school level. So if you're a middle school counselor or advisor, you probably won't be using this tool. Same thing for if you work at the college level. This really isn't a tool designed for students who are not in their senior year or who are completing the applications that I just mentioned. So just wanted to clarify that to make sure everyone knows who this is intended to be used by. So what information will you get when you log into Counselor Suite Idaho? As I mentioned before, it's going to be the same information that you were able to get with FAFSA. So the first one that piece of information that you'll have access to is student level FAFSA data. So you will be able to see of your seniors who has submitted a FAFSA, who might be missing something on their FAFSA, who maybe started a FAFSA but hasn't finished it yet. So you will get to see completion status for those students at your school in Counselor Suite. The next thing you're going to see is direct admissions data for your students. So this will show you whether or not that student got the letter of 6 or the letter of 8, meaning you'll know without ever having seen the direct admissions letter which institutions the students have been pre-admitted to. So if you're talking to a student and you want to kind of get a sense of where they should be applying, you know, if they're not really sure where they should apply, you can always look to see like, okay, they're going to be a student that would be accepted automatically to the 8 institutions on the direct admissions letter. The other piece of information that you're going to have is Apply Idaho. So you will know application status. So any student who completes Apply Idaho, you will be able to see that in Counselor Suite. You'll see if a student maybe started Apply Idaho but didn't finish. So then you can follow up with those students to see if they need help completing. And then you'll also be able to see which colleges students actually submitted an application for through Apply Idaho. So you'll be able to filter and see if you want to find out who are all my seniors who applied to Boise State. You can use the filtering functionality and you can pull up that information and see all the students who submitted an application to BSU. And then the last piece of data in Counselor Suite is Scholarship Idaho data. So you will be able to see which of your seniors have submitted the Idaho Opportunity Scholarship application, Governor's Cup, or any of the other scholarships that we manage. And this hopefully will really help in targeting those students and reminding them to apply for that Idaho Opportunity Scholarship. If they meet that 2.7 GPA requirement, we definitely want to encourage all students who meet that GPA to apply. So that's all the information that you're going to be able to get in Counselor Suite. Again, similar to what you're getting now in FAFSA. So what I'm going to do now is stop sharing my screen and allow Joan to come in, and she's going to walk us through a demo of Counselor Suite so that you have a sense of what it's going to look like and how you will access it.
Perfect. Jenny, can I just ask you to confirm, can you see the State Board of Education logo and it says select organization? Perfect. I'm seeing a nod. So this is the State Department of Education admin portal. I'm sure many of the people on this call use this regularly. You'll use it with advanced opportunities or a couple other programs at your schools. And now that Counselor Suite Idaho is launching, this is also where you will find that. If you are an organization who can find your district in the select organization drop-down list, that is how you're going to want to sign in. And it is really convenient because you just select it and the process goes really easily after that. However, I, at the State Board of Education and many other districts in this state, will choose other instead. So we're going to do that. We're going to click to sign in. Here's a email and I'll type in that password. And we'll log in and we'll see everything that Jenny just pointed out, those post-secondary transition checkpoints in the new Counselor Suite layout. The landing page is obviously a one-to-one kind of representation of what used to be that FAFSA summary page. We're going to scroll down to a couple years ago so we can populate some data. You'll have a high-level overview of some completions, and then if you scroll down, you'll have the FAFSA completions for each school. And again, this is really just summary data. A couple things. We're going to go over 4 big changes for Counselor Suite Idaho, and along the way, we'll talk about the things that carried over from FAFSA. So first off, if you go to that student detail page, which did exist in FAFSA, Once you log in for that first time, you're going to be met by this wall of text, this new terms of use agreement. And this is a big deal. It's one of the main motivations behind the rebuild of this Counselor Suite Idaho. Basically, you'll need to say that, yes, I accept responsibility, and no, I will not be sharing this information. If you have colleagues at your school that you work with and who will also kind of leverage this data to kind of do the work they need to do, that's awesome. But we ask that you send them to us and we'll get them set up with their own account, because it is, you do not want to be liable for sharing some of this federally granted data. And so basically what this huge wall of text says is that you won't do that, and you'll be, you'll kind of agree to the terms and conditions of the platform. So once you read all that, you'll check this box and you'll hit submit. And only after you do that will you be able to see your school's student details. So this is what that looks like. And again, keep in mind everything that Jenny just told us about, you'll be able to see here. I want to point out you will still be able to export to CSV, just like FAFSA, and you will still have that giant Excel table full of data, just like FAFSA. That's your default viewing when you come to the student detail page. You have this horizontal scroll bar where you can kind of roll over and you can see all 4 of those things that Jenny described. You have FAFSA completion, you have the direct admissions letter status, you have where they applied for Apply Idaho, and then you have some information about the scholarships. However, an advantage of the new Counselor Suite Idaho is that this information has been broken up into tabs. So as you can see right here, if I just want to see FAFSA and I don't want to have to scroll very much or really at all, then I can just pull up FAFSA and it kind of sifts through that information and that data and helps me traverse through it a lot quicker. Same thing for Apply Idaho. I just will see the direct admissions letter, whether or not they got the letter of 8 or the letter of 6, and then which schools they applied to and what the status of that application is. And then lastly, again, you'll have that scholarship information. This year, it's not populated because this is a beta site, but you'll actually see which scholarships have been completed, which applications, whether or not that student has been offered the scholarship, and whether or not the student has accepted that scholarship. I know in years past, many people would reach out to Joy Miller, the state program scholarship manager here in our office, and kind of adding this feature to Counselor Suite Idaho eliminates the need to kind of reach out and get that list, because you will be able to come into your Counselor Suite Idaho account and just see exactly what each student's status is with the scholarships that they applied to. So very helpful. Okay, we're also going to go to missing student underneath the student detail tab. This is another one of those changes. In the past, you were always required to enter missing students or students who showed up in your cohort and shouldn't be there, one at a time, kind of in this format, which you're still allowed to do, and we still encourage you to do if you have 1 or 2 students. But if you have 9 students that you don't understand why they're in your cohort, or 9 students that are missing from your cohort, we made it a lot easier to bulk upload those student names so we can kind of rectify that situation. So this usability has been improved significantly. And then the last thing, the last major change is on the contact page, you'll always be able to reach out to the info@nextsteps.idaho.gov and our team. But if you have a technical problem, you found an error with the site, you'll actually use Otis. And again, this will be nothing new for the people who are used to using the State Department of Education admin tool portal. It's a really common way to submit tickets. Otis is basically a different name for help desk. And it's pretty easy to pick up, but that is the 4th change in Counselor Suite Idaho, is just this new system for submitting technical problems with the website. So this is Counselor Suite Idaho. I'm just going to recap it one more time. This is your summary page. This is where you'll log in. The first thing you'll see, you'll get 12th grade school by school FAFSA completion numbers as soon as you log in. The student detail page, the first time you log in, you will have to agree to that new terms of use agreement. Underneath missing students, you'll have that bulk upload opportunity. Also under student detail, you'll have the tabs, which are new this year. And then that last new thing is just the Otis tickets on the contact page. So those are the 4 big things. And all of this will be available and at your fingertips very soon. Sarah, in a couple minutes, is going to talk about the timeline for how you're actually going to access this.
Awesome. Thank you, Joan. Thanks for that walkthrough. And again, I know a lot of you are just like, okay, how do I get there? It's great. I'm so glad we know what it looks like, but you really want to know, how do I get there? How do I actually access my data? And Sarah's going to walk us through that in just a few minutes. Before we get to Sarah, we just wanted to share a couple of ways to use this data. I know many of you have been using FAFSA web data for years now, so you understand the power of having the student level data to really target your efforts and make sure that you are reaching out to students who really need that support. So we just wanted to kind of reiterate that once you have access to this Counselor Suite data and you know which students still need to submit their FAFSA, or you know that there's a student that you're like, oh my gosh, they would totally qualify for Idaho Opportunity Scholarship and they haven't done it yet. This just gives you that tool to be able to say to them, hey, I just checked and you haven't submitted your application yet. It's a really nice thing. I know this happened to me several times when I would call a student down because I had looked at FAFSA web and saw they were missing something and they thought they had submitted it, but really they hadn't. So it's a good way to just sort of double check and to help students make sure that they don't miss out on some of these great opportunities. We also hope that you'll use this data for your own purposes in terms of, really highlighting the work that you're doing with students, whether that be to your building principal, to your staff, if you want to let the staff know, hey, guess what? This many students have submitted the Idaho Opportunity Scholarship, or this many students applied to college. I think this tool allows you to really put numbers to what you're doing. So often, if you're the only one in your building doing what you do, people kind of don't know what you do. And so this, I think, can quantify it and give you some leverage, especially if you're maybe trying to get additional funding, or maybe you're trying to just get additional support. You can really use this data to sort of highlight the great work that you're doing and the things that students are accomplishing to achieve their goals. So we really hope that this data is useful to you and powerful. And we know it's been kind of a long time coming getting this Counselor Suite ready, and we really appreciate your patience. We just have really wanted this tool to be accurate and correct once we roll it out, and we want it to be useful to you. So thank you for your patience with us this year and continuing to use FAFSA web. So I'm going to throw it over to Sarah now and allow her to kind of walk us through how you're going to gain access to this so that when it launches in January, you're ready to go and you can get that data.
Great, thanks, Jenny. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I just want to draw your attention to, if you go to the Next Steps Idaho website and you go up into the search, if you type in Counselor Suite Idaho, we have a resource library page that's going to once again reiterate the 4 metrics that you can access through Counselor Suite, and also what I'm going to go through with you today, the how to gain access to the Counselor Suite Idaho. And one of the things that we're changing is, historically with FAFSA web, you would go to a open website, you would request an account, and then we would have to verify that you worked at your school and then turn access on for you. The new process is going to be built into the state department's portal. And so by doing that, your district tech will be able to verify who you are and turn you on. So one of the first things we need to make sure we do, and if you have a screen and you want to go ahead through this process as we're talking about it, go ahead from here. We say create an account in the Idaho System for Educational Excellence data system. So if you're a new user, and so if you're not associated with advanced opportunities, go ahead and click here, and that will get you to our registration page. And for those of you that are not listed in that drop down that Joan showed, the way that they're going to find you as an other is when you type in your organization. So if I were to type in my email, my name, and my organization, and one caveat to know about organization is as you start to type it, it will look for the ones that are already listed in the system under that whole other category. You'll need to create a password and confirm your password. And then you'll need to log in one time to verify that you have that account, basically to confirm that account. So if you do not have an account, and the the page that Joan showed looked very unfamiliar to you, which I will pull it up here. This is the page that you would come to if you already have, or once you have created that account. And as Joan mentioned, the majority of us, even us at the state board, we choose the word other, and that gets us to the correct login screen. For any of these schools that are listed here, or these districts that are listed here, you will actually click on your school district. And now you're at your own district login. You will just use the same credentials that you use every day to log into your account at your school. So for those districts that have it, you get the easy way because you don't have to register for an account. You can just go ahead and use this system here. But for those of us, the majority of us, we come here to this other and click to sign in. And so once we sign in, you will land, if you are not part of advanced opportunities and you decide to get yourself set up today, you will land most likely on a page that looks like this, but probably has 0 portal tabs on it because you don't have anything assigned to you. During the account creation process, you will create this account. Then in January, and I'll talk more about it as we look at the timeline, we'll actually send you instructions because you'll need to email your district tech and tell them to select this tool to add to your portal. And once that happens, then you'll have a tile that will say Counselor Suite Idaho. You'll also get an Otis ticket tile, and that's where Joan was talking about. This is your help desk for any issues that arise with functionality of the site. If you have questions about your students or your cohorts, you can continue to just email our team at info@nextsteps.idaho.gov. But this is the process that you'll go through to access those. Oh, sorry, I have so many different things. So right now, if you have time today and you want to go ahead and register, you're going to go ahead and type in, like I mentioned, your email, your name, your organization, and then your password. Then you'll need to log back in and you'll end up at that same screen that I was showing you. And you can get to it from there. So that is the process. It is a little more complicated than the initial, but it will provide a lot more security around your students' personal data that is stored within the site. So we will be able to verify through your district that you are associated with that school. So I'll look in the chat and see if there are any questions related to that. So Christy, if you already have an AO account, then all you need to do is in January, when you guys get back to school, we'll be sending you an email with what you need to send to your district tech staff to get Counselor Suite Idaho's tile turned on for you. And once that happens, you'll just use your own AO portal account and you will be able to have both your AO tile, your Otis tile. Yeah, so Julie, yes, if you are already familiar with logging in to that SDE or app2.sde.idaho.gov, then you are good to go. And the only thing you'll need to do is in January, you'll need to make sure that you send an email to your district tech to get you the tile that will show up in your current account. For those of you who have no idea what the AO portal is, you will need to go through this whole registration process. And the sooner you do that, then the easier will be in January to just send your email. So there's a couple things for the timeline to get Counselor Suite up, and we thought we'd talk to you about those today. So right now, our team is doing production testing to make sure that everything is functioning as it should for you all. And then we will continue once it launches to do weekly Counselor Suite updates throughout the rest of this school year through July. And then July, Counselor Suite will go dark until next October, just like FAFSA Web has done. One of the things that we need you, oh, perfect, she got it. One of the things that is going to be a little bit of a change is we will need to have all of the superintendents sign an agreement to make sure that they understand that we're giving access to their staff for this type of student level detail. And this is really to satisfy the federal government allowing us to give you all access to the actual FAFSA data. So superintendents will get mailed an email on January 5th that will give them the instructions of how they will log in on their own State Department portal to sign that agreement. And we're going to give them 2 weeks to do that. And the reason we're going to give them about 2 weeks to do that before we send you the email to say, hey, go ahead, it's time now to request your tile be turned on, is because if they haven't signed it when you log in, you will not be able to see your student level detail until your superintendent has signed that agreement. So those are just some of the timing issues. For the superintendents, like I mentioned, they'll get an email from us. They will have throughout the year to sign that agreement. And then they will be able to also view the Counselor Suite data just as you would. Your district tech directors, there are 4 different levels of access for Counselor Suite depending on who you are. So in the email that I will send to you on the 16th, it will indicate whether you need to ask for Counselor Suite public school, Counselor Suite private school, Counselor Suite Gear Up or Trio coordinator, and then Counselor Suite Gear Up program staff. So those are the different user levels, and I will have all of that in an email that you will receive. You will also receive in that email the district tech directors for your district. So you will know who to send the draft email that will provide you to. So again, you will not get your email until the 16th of January. And then you have between January and June to request that Counselor Suite be turned on for you. And then you'll be able to access Counselor Suite the day that it's turned on for you by your district, up until again June 30th. And that is when we will stop updating data for this senior class. You can still access it over the summer and look at your historical data, but there will be no continual updates past that July 30th date. So again, you can go ahead on the 16th and send your email that we've prepared on your behalf to your district tech directors. But if your superintendent has not signed the agreement, then you wouldn't be able to see the student level detail until after they have done that. And our team will be continually reaching out to superintendents to make sure that we get everybody signed off as quickly as possible so that you can have a seamless transition from FAFSA Web to Counselor Suite.
And Sarah, just to clarify, is this only has to be done once?
Yes.
And then next year, it's all good. Okay.
Yep. The only thing that will have to happen on a yearly basis is the first time you log in at the turn of the year, you will have to revisit that terms of use and sign off each year on your terms of use. But you only have to have your district director turn on your tile one time. David, good question. So if you send an email to the district tech person and say, please turn this on for this list of people at our district, then they could be able to turn them all on at one time. So it's up to you how you want to coordinate it. At the bigger districts, it might be better to have one person be the central contact and just say, these are all the people at our district that need this access.
And we know this seems kind of like a tedious process, and we really appreciate you going through this with us. I think anytime you transition from something to something new, there's always like a process for that. And again, because it's that federal data that we're getting for FAFSA, we have to comply with the terms of getting that data. And so a lot of the reason why we need, multiple people to approve really just has to do with that federal data that we're getting. So we really appreciate your patience through this process. And but like Sarah said, once you get through it, once everything's approved and you have access, then you'll be good to go from here on out. Sarah, do you know, like if a counselor changed schools, like maybe next year they move to a different school, how does that process work?
Sure. So if you do change schools, then the email account that you were using that was tied, unless you're staying within district, then that email, you'll need to go through and recreate a new account, just like you would anytime you change schools and all your contact information changes. And then you would need to then email your district again, the new district or the new school, to get you access to the new school that you're at. If you are at multiple schools, you can have the access turned on for multiple schools.
And just want to say thank you to Sarah, because she's done a lot of work behind the scenes to get this going, and just really wants to try to make it as easy as possible, knowing that this is a complicated process. So again, Sarah's going to send out those draft emails to you all so that you know what to say to your district tech people. She's going to be the one making sure that the superintendents do what they need to do. So just really want to say thank you to Sarah for all her hard work on getting this going. Our staff will definitely be available throughout January, like as you're going through this and trying to gain access. Like if you run into any issues, please know you can always reach out to us and we will help as much as we can to get you that access. Stay in touch with us. We are here to help get this all scheduled or figured out for you in January. Have a wonderful winter break, rest, eat, drink, be merry, have lots of fun. Thank you so much for all you do for students, and thank you for working with us. We are truly grateful for you all. So have a great rest of your day.